Well everybody, this is it. The moment we've all been waiting for. We can finally able to obtain the 6th Chaos Emerald in Uranus' Island. Now I believe something tells me whatever happened to the forms of the 7th Chaos Emerald, well, that'll be for later. So, hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally, of course, the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we have basically concluded everything in terms of the forms of not only Uranus' Island, but also we did somehow finally manage able to fully 100% everything in terms of Chaos Island, meaning about the fact that I did finally manage able to find the missing Guardian that I somehow have to take down. So luckily it's nothing to do with the bug or glitch or anything else to be more specific, but it's just about the fact that sometimes though it's about the fact that it can be a little bit messed up at one point. So, yeah, today for this video is about the fact that we're about to end things off with Sonic Frontiers, specifically the main story campaign, by able to actually obtaining the 6th Chaos Emerald, and that's all there is to it. And also we can able to take on the final Titan in the whole game. Now before we get to that though, let me quickly go ahead and go back onto Kronos Island for a bit. That's just because there is actually a trophy / achievement that you can possibly able to actually easily obtain thanks to the forms of there's achievement or trophy for that matter that you can able to actually obtain by simply get able to likely also get Phantom Rush for about approximately 50 times, and in order to do this a bit quicker is that I highly recommend you able to go into Kronos Island, and if you come across into this Guardian right here, and basically all you have to do is basically just mash the button as much as possible and attack its legs and rams and repeat, and that's all you have to do here. So, and also as you can see, we actually change into a different costume. Or to be more specifically, we actually got ourselves a new hat we are able to actually wear. Or to be more specifically, the headgear for ourselves. And this meaning about the fact that, do you guys even remember about the fact that during the forms event yesterday, that we obviously did already wrap things up everything throughout the majority of the game? Well, as it actually turns out about the fact that we've unlocked Frontier Elite. Which meaning I was right, it's about the fact that apparently we did somehow wear a crown on Sonic's head. Something very similar to the forms of how it does it on Captain Toad Treasure Tracker for the likes of the Wii U, Switch, and 3DS versions. So as a result, and you can able to actually get that once you do manage able to finish up with Mummy Me Maze Forever. And as a result, that is definitely one of the hardest levels in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Well, unless if you don't account DLC for the likes of the Switch version, and also during the forms event Donkey Kong Jungle Beat on the Wii version most notably, if you do manage able to complete everything, like obtaining every crowns, every single crest, and especially noticeable about the fact that you can able to complete Banana Banquest. And that's about it basically, you can able to wear the crown at any time. And on top of all that stuff though, that can be also applied for Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, at least assuming of course there are 3 different types of crowns you can wear. Like for instance, there's one of them you need to beat the forms of Mushroom 13, which meaning about the fact that you have to do with all 13 mushroom challenges during the course of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and that could be also applied so you need to defeat the data versions for the Organization 13 fights, which is probably the most toughest, and on top of that, beating a secret boss called Lingering Will, and basically that's essentially you can get like, in between the forms of 3 different crowns, there's the bronze crown, the silver crown, and of course the gold crown. So as a result, that way you can able to actually wear the crown in any spots, at anywhere, and that's all I was to really think about it. So even then though, a few things I want to explain for this points today, and that's what appears to be about the fact that today's date, of course, there is the 22nd of September today, in some cases in 2023 today. Naturally speaking, for those of you probably wondering what the actual today is for this point, is that not only does Pikmin 1 plus 2 Switch version, physical version I should say, has recently came out today, so as a result about the fact that I was very pleased about the fact that I finally managed able to actually play those Pikmin games on the go, rather than need to worry about the forms of some stupid loose connection Wii U gamepad problems on the Wii U. Now, on top of all that stuff, though, is about the fact that for what I've managed able to experience, Pikmin 1 plus 2 on the Switch version, it plays pretty similar to the forms of how it does on the GameCube control scheme, except the fact that the graphics looks a lot more clearer this time around. And in addition to that, though, no loading times, so it just loads faster. And in addition to that, though, is about the fact that there are some questionable choices, like for instance with the forms of the gyro sensing option, which I was expecting to try and test that out on my own time, but I think I'm also able to save that for a later day. And in addition to that, though, there might be some controversials out there for the sake of the product placements. So because of that, though, specifically in Pikmin 2's case, so that's a bit of unfortunate for that regard, but even then, that must have been said something, I guess. So anyway, in addition to that, iPhone 15 alongside with iPhone 15 Plus, and I think that could be also applies for iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max has recently came out today in across the world. So yeah, that seems kind of not too far from the likes of the forms of how it does it ever since in 10 days ago that we've recently got ourselves an Apple event ever since in during the forms of 10 days ago, which yeah, it doesn't seem to able to get that long to able to actually get to this point. And in addition to that, though, is about the fact that with Apple Watch Series 9 has recently came out, and finally Apple Watch, or I think it's Apple Watch specifically, Apple Watch Ultra 2 has recently also came out during that time as well. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. What was your first impressions of iPhone 15 itself? Do you like it as much as the other models? Well, specifically iPhone 14, or do you think it might be feels a bit the pricing for it might be a bit too much? But even then, though, I think for me personally, though, I'm still gonna be pretty much gonna be happy with XR as for now, especially concerning about the fact that it still runs very, very well, no technical issues whatsoever. So at the very least, I fully appreciate about the fact that, wow, I can't believe we're now on to, technically speaking, the next model of the iPhone. I mean, what's next? And during the forms within 2024, I mean, what's next? You're gonna be iPhone 16? I mean, that would be insane. Like, as a result, that still no wonder why that Apple decides they're able to skip the number 9, which I have no idea why they somehow skipped over iPhone 9 for some reason and jumped straight into the forms of iPhone 10 and onwards. But even then, though, that's pretty crazy when it comes to the forms of depending on what models they've somehow announced during that period. I mean, still, it is pretty crazy for the most part. So anyway, though, so as you can see, I've got myself my trophy now, so it does take a bit while to able to actually get this process going, especially concerning about the fact that you always have to wait until the meter decides to deplete it. So as a result, once you keep on doing this particular Phantom Rush most of your time, obviously that was the best method to enable to do this, which I think I did manage to test this out on the Xbox One version, for I did manage to play that on let's say by the beginning of 2023, if I'm assuming so anyway, and that's why I've somehow discovered this, whilst unlike the Switch version, for some reason does not include any achievements or trophies, which is kind of unfortunate because I usually still have some fun playing on my Nintendo Switch most of my time, but it's kind of a shame about the fact that they did not include any achievements or trophies, unlike the Sony PlayStation family of systems, including Xbox family of consoles, for its achievements. So oh well, no big deal. I suppose maybe they'll do that on the next generation of Nintendo consoles eventually, specifically Switch 2 that most people keep on talking about it. But let's not get of ourselves for this point right now, but that's just because about the fact no matter what though, we've basically done everything for this point right now, so we can now able to actually go ahead and dash straight forward onto the final bit of the forms of Uranus' Island, and sure enough we're able to get the 6th Chaos Emerald, and presumably once we're able to actually get to the next cutscene up ahead, then obviously about the fact that as you can tell, I don't think there's any turning back if we do manage to obtain this 6th Chaos Emerald, because there's going to be a cutscene up ahead, and that logo looks familiar, doesn't it? Because I just noticed that particular familiar symbol ever since in not only certain cutscenes for Koko's, but also during the forms of the first announcement trailer for Sonic Frontiers. So, but even then though, let's go ahead and obtain the 6th Chaos Emerald, and sure enough, I think we're most able to take on the 4th and the final Titan throughout the whole game.
One more. I gotta hurry up.
Sonic!
I know. You're not fast enough, so I found it for you. Go ahead and beat that giant! Don't you dare lose it!
Now why would I want to disappoint you?
Well, that's very nice of you, Dr. Eggman. You did somehow give me the 7th and the final Chaos Emerald in this process. So, yeah, we've once again became Supersonic after the events of that particular Night Titan from the likes of in Chaos Island, except now, we're about to face off against with the final Titan in the game, known as Supreme. Okay, it does kind of reminds me of a similar kind of design as the forms of Giganto from the likes of the forms of Kronos Island, and this particular boss fight, I'm not gonna lie, I actually enjoy it for quite a bit, but some people seem to complain of how pathetically easy this boss fight turns out to be. Although, don't get me wrong, it is kind of a fun experience, all things considered, in my opinion. Although, sure, about the fact that, as you can tell, we did somehow manage to able to demolish his health bar very, quite frequently. That's just mainly because, you know, we fully maxed out our strength and defense and you name the rest, including the ring capacity as well. Although, kind of thinking about it, I was originally trying to able to actually rank up my rings counter, but I just couldn't be bothered to do all that, because I think this boss fight is going to take down a lot more faster than I thought it was, because whenever I first experienced this particular Titan fight, it goes by a little bit lengthy on the Switch version, but that's just because I haven't exactly fully leveled up my rings capacity, including body forms of strength and defense. But regardless of everything else though, that about the fact that still, it does kind of reminds me of Giganto from the likes of Kronos Island, except with a different color scheme. And on top of that, there are a few rare occasional moments where basically it's about the fact that, as you can tell, we now need to start able to dodge a lot of projectiles, and it's best able to take down these little weird stuff, as you can see. And then otherwise though, it's about the fact that, oh, if you manage to get knocked back by one of his supreme attacks, obviously about the fact that it's your chance to able to actually keep on doing praying back at the bombs of those specific projectiles on the specific turrets, as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff, and that way you can able to actually just demolish his health very fast. But if you think this battle is done, well, as it turns out about the fact that I believe we got to do a quick time event, so yeah, that might be this specifically for the sake of time, that about the fact that this boss fight is pretty easy, unlike, well, if you think about the fact that since we're now on the hard difficulty setting still, but as a result of that particular matter though, we still pretty much not done, but as a result of that particular matter though, we'll save that particular topic for later. So yeah, oh jeez, he got like his pretty freaking gun. Although, mind you, we got to do a quick time event right here to like catch up at one point, so I think if you do manage to mess this up, I believe you're gonna have to able to try that quick time event again if I may be wrong, but either way though, the reason why I have to able to talk for this particular point is because, well, suffice to say, I just don't want to able to get demonetized by the forms of the copyright music, as you can tell. But regardless of such though, I do really like the theme of the song, by the way, which I'm not exactly sure what the theme song is called, by the way. Let me know in the comments down below of what song is it called, so even then no. And yeah, that was about it for Supreme.
Is that it?
All we did was chase it out of its shell. It's retreating into space to regain its true form. Even Supersonic won't be able to stop it. I know what I must do. I must leave you.
I understand. Go. Fulfill your function.
Hurry, before it regains its full strength.
Ladies first.
Be careful, dear daughter.
So yeah, we somehow managed able to, well, let Sage join in with this particular final encounter. And speaking of such though, here we go on to, presumably speaking, the true final boss in the entire game. Or, to me though, not only is one of the hardest boss fights in the game, but it's also, in my opinion, is the worst part of the whole dang game. I mean, what a way to end this off. I mean, relatively speaking though, the boss is called as The End.
He took your home world. He took your lives. Are you going to let him do it all over again? I need your help. We can end this. Please.
So since we're still on the hard difficulty setting after all, this means about the fact that we can actually able to fight The End. Which, talking of which though, is about the fact that, like I said before, is about the fact that not only this is without a doubt the hardest boss fight in the game, but it's also to me though is the worst aspect of the entire game in my opinion. Like, first of all, look at the design of the End. It's like a simple basic sphere moon. That's all there is to it. Nothing creative or specifically for that matter though. It just kind of feels a bit generic. But it's also to me though is about the fact that, as you can tell, why the heck am I playing Ikaruga? Which I totally get it about the Fonzu references, but seriously, I'm not very great at Ikaruga or anything else to be more specific. So, although I think it's still possible you can able to actually beat this thing with the forms of another difficulty that you can able to choose, but we'll save that particular topic for later. So, but even then though, all you have to really do for this entire fight is that you got able to keep on shooting not only light, but also dark shots for the likes of the forms of The End itself. And keep this in mind, very much like the forms of how it does on the actual minigame, that's more accurately very much like, well, you come across into that particular Ikaruga type of minigame like 3 times during the forms of it, well, 1 time in Chaos Island and the other 2 from Alraunus' Island. So this is technically the 4th time we're playing through Ikaruga type of minigame. And I will say though is about the fact that whenever I managed to get to this point on the Switch version on my own time, whenever I first got to it, dang do I hate it. Like, for instance, about the fact no matter what though, unlike in any other Supersonic final boss fights, that you can able to actually take control of Supersonic throughout the majority of the forms of certain final bosses ever since in Sonic Generations, from the likes of not only on the console version, but also on the 3DS as well. So relatively speaking though, you can able to take control of Supersonic and can do all sorts of stuff. Not here though. Instead, we're able to actually take control of the forms of, well, Sage control mind of Supreme, act out as a ship of any sort, and basically we're playing Ikaruga, which, truth be told, I'm pretty much suck at the forms of this particular part. Because every time, whenever I do manage to able to get shot for about, let's say if I get destroyed for about 3 times, well, guess what though, if you mess up at least once, you have to start all over at the beginning portion of the fight. No checkpoints whatsoever, so yeah, good luck by the way, because obviously I have seen a lot of videos that they've already managed able to succeed for this fight, no problem, but for me, I'm pretty much suck at this fight, mainly because not only it's incredibly chaotic, but it's also about the fact that there's not much breathing room, at least depending on certain situations. Well, at least luckily you can able to actually defend yourself, if you do manage to able to, like, for example, if you became like light form, you can able to actually easily get protected by the forms of the light projectiles, whilst vice versa for its dark form for the likes of these dark projectiles. So, I will say about the fact that the beginning portion is not too bad, but in the ending portion of this fight, it's tremendously impossible. Like, I can never imagine about the fact I was trying to dodge every single, like, projectiles, including the most annoying hazard of them all though, is those godforsaken lasers, which you do have few seconds of invincibility if you manage to able to take down at one point, and yeah, this is without doubt is one of the worst fights, and it's also, some people seem to say, this is the most disappointing aspect of Sonic Frontiers, although I really wish if you're able to actually just take control of, well, I can possibly understand for its plot significance, because as far as what Sage has already mentioned about this is that Super Sonic cannot handle with the forms of the end all entirely by himself. Although, relatively speaking though, it's just about the fact that unfortunately though, this is the only thing we have to cope with. So, and yeah, no matter what though, it's just about the fact that if you think he was done, well, he's gonna be invincible for about a few seconds notice. And to make matters worse, it's gonna get a lot more ridiculous. So, luckily though, if you do think this is a bit too much, well, luckily though, you can able to actually, while it still feels a bit of a pain that you have to refight against with Supreme again during the course of, yeah, as you can see, I did somehow died on that very last section, and as I said before, you have to start all over at the beginning. So because of that though, yeah, I will say that about the fact that Time Eater is a better fight in my opinion. Yeah, I said it. Including Solaris from Sonic 06, Perfect Dark Gaia from Sonic Unleashed, and especially noticeable with the forms of Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure, the Final Hazard from the likes of Sonic Adventure 2, and also Metal Overlord from Sonic Heroes, and even Devil Doom from Shadow the Hedgehog, because at the very least you can be able to actually take control of the super counterparts, but not only for Super Sonic, but also Super Shadow and Super Silver. So as a result, that's the only reason why I do prefer take controlling with Super Sonic or Super Shadow or Super Silver individually, not some kind of like a random Ikaruga type of challenge. I understand by the forms of the reference, like I said before, but this is too much for me. So as a result, that every time whenever I get murdered by the forms of those particular projectiles anywhere I go, and then as a result, I think if you do manage to find this a bit too much, like I said before, you can able to actually go back into your previous save file and change the difficulty to easy or normal, because at least it does something a bit different depending on what difficulty you select, like either on easy or normal mode. Well, I'll show it to you once we're able to actually, like, if I mess up for about 2 more times, then I'll be like, screw it. I'm just gonna able to dump down the difficulty to normal and show you what happens if you manage to able to get to this point on normal mode or easy mode. So because of that though, I just feel like that about the fact that not only does this particular boss fight feels a bit disappointing, but it's also uninteresting as far as the actual design as far as this is concerned. Like, maybe eventually, once the actual, the Final Horizons DLC will be on its way, makes it a little bit, 10 times a little bit interesting, but then again, no, it's just about the fact that I just do not like this particular, final boss. I think this is easily the most disappointing aspect of the game to me, because, not only because it feels a bit too chaotic, but it's also about the fact that sometimes, though, I just found it a bit too much. Mainly for that particular point that it's, like, again, it plays like Ikaruga, which despite the fact that I've never actually played Ikaruga before, but seriously, I just find it's a bit too much, so... But yeah, that's as far as I can think about it. But at the very least though, the music in the background does sound a bit interesting, and it's also a lot more atmospheric or epicness as well. But there are a few times though, it's about the fact that the end does manage to taunt you for the sake of the forms of how much stronger that particular planet as it goes by. Well, it's difficult to explain because, seriously, look how much spectating I have to dodge through this. But either way, that's what I can really think about it. But at least on the upside is, though, is about the fact that once we're pretty much done with the main story campaign in Sonic Frontiers, we can at the very least, we can able to actually dive right into some extra stuff once you beat the game once. So as a result, yeah, I think I should probably save that particular topic once we're able to finish this godforsaken fight. At least depending on the actual pure luck. So, yeah, still, those lasers are super duper ridiculous to avoid. Like, yeah, this is just too much. I can barely try to able to move around, and then, again, there's no breathing room. So, yeah, this is just too much. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below of what you think about the end as the entire final boss as far as this is concerned. I personally hate it. So as a result, yeah, there goes my second death. So this will be my third and final time to able to actually do this. But if I failed that, obviously I'll just have to able to dip down the difficulty on off screen. Although, again, it's a bit of a pain that you have to refight against with Supreme again, but thankfully it goes down by very quickly. So because of that though, yeah, I'm just not a big fan of this fight. And by the way, again, mess up at any point of this fight and you have to start over from the very beginning of the tedium. Along with the forms of not only that the dialogue will be reused by the end, and for some reason Sonic never interacts with the forms of the end's conversation. Well, at least it never sense technically in the beginning portion of the game that someone is trying to communicate to able to give him some of these instructions or what have you, but that's about it basically. And in addition to that though, if you manage to beat Supreme like multiple times whenever you first got there, you have to go for this unskippable cutscene at one point where Dr. Eggman just somehow believes that Sage can able to actually pull this off or something. So yeah, it does kind of reminds me of the forms of, you know, the evil twins as the final boss in Crash Twinsanity, where if you mess up at one point and you have to start all over at the beginning of the tedium, along with the forms of the unskippable cutscene when you keep on seeing Cortex start able to wet himself. So yeah, if you probably know what I'm talking about, for those of you who've ever seen our, well, if you haven't seen actually, several other reviews of the forms of Crash Twinsanity, and specifically with Cat and Gris most likely. So because of that, I highly recommend his channel by the way, because he is a cool YouTuber after all. So, but yeah, you probably get the idea about the fact that I'm just not a big fan of this boss fight. It certainly is one of the weakest final bosses in any Sonic games in my opinion. Not only because it's uninteresting, but at least I would take the final boss from the likes of Sonic Forces any day, because at least you can able to take control of not only classic Sonic, but also your avatar and modern Sonic to finish off. And at least you can able to control yourself, and thus it does have checkpoints for sure. But relatively speaking though, it's just about the fact that this boss fight is seriously unfair in my opinion, even on hardest difficulty setting. Like every time whenever I keep screwing up, whenever I manage to play this on the Switch version on my own time, God, I was literally almost there, but the last section always throws me off. Especially noticeable because I was not expecting that this is just too much to able to avoid a lot of projectiles. But again, the beginning is not too bad, but it's just at the end, it's just always frustrating. Like, think of like, imagine if you're experiencing Exam C from Super Monkey Ball 1 or Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, and hell, even with the forms of Banana Mania for goodness sake. But even then though, that's as far as I can usually think about it, so. And sometimes though, it's about the fact that if you mess up with that specific death on the end, as far as this is concerned, I believe the music just somehow resets itself if you do manage to able to die, so. And let me tell you, by that time, whenever I get to this point, I'm pretty much not going to be able to touch upon this ever again. Because I will say, though, that about the fact that it just gives me a lot of, I just managed to able to get a lot of rage-inducing at one point during the course of this godforsaken, you know, the end itself. But again, it's just about the fact that it's incredibly inconsistent with all that particular stuff you have to avoid. And also, certain invincibility frames doesn't seem to last forever. It only lasted for about a few seconds notice. So, either way, let's just go ahead and try to keep on shooting this dang thing. Although some people might find this a bit easier and such a cakewalk, but for me, I'm pretty much useless at it, so. And also, this entire fight took a bit way too long, so because of that though, definitely a little bit of a lengthy final boss as compared to the forms of how it does it on any other supersonic final boss fights. So, yeah, including buddy forms of Sonic Forces as well, so. Alright, so we got to this point again, so I'm really, really hoping I can able to pass for this, because if not, well, I'm just gonna have to able to jump back to, like, or downgraded the difficulty. It's a bit of a shame about the fact I would have liked able to do a full-on, hard playthrough, but it's just this part is always throws me off.
It changes nothing.
Oh god. Okay. Some lasers to dodge.
You are not victorious.
Alright. Oh goodness.
No matter what form I take.
Alright. Oh jeez, this lasers is spinning! Oh, it's gone too fast. At least I got one last hit left. Oh, dang it! Screw it. I'm just gonna cut to the point that I'll decrease the difficulty to normal and show you what happens if you beat on normal mode, so I'll meet you guys back. God, I hate this fight. And I was so close for that too, so... Ugh. Okay, quick error right there, because I did somehow manage to get back into this point, except now, I changed the difficulty back to normal, and that was the only time I'm going to be going for normal difficulty, because, again, it's a shame, I would have appreciated if I was going to do the full-on hard difficulty run, but it's just this particular boss fight just throws me off, like, literally, it's just way too much. But thankfully though, if you set the difficulty to easy or normal mode, this will actually happen. Rather than fight against with the end, so instead, you instantly get transported into the finale portion of this fight, and you can only do one thing, luckily though, so, and also the boss's health does not get out of place on this particular scene, depending on what difficulty you select, either easy or normal, so at the very least we can able to see this amazing scene by the way, so... Oh, and also I apologize for that particular capture card glitches again, so hopefully I'll fix that at some point, presumably on Monday. So, yeah, this is the only thing you can only do on normal or easy mode. Basically, you can only do up to 3 quick time events, and you have to keep your little line exactly on this blue area. But once you succeed for about 3 times, well, I'm very happy to report the end is done. Thank God.
Please, look after Father.
Woohoo! Yes!
All right.
wait a minute, did Sage just sacrifice herself? God, that's pretty upsetting. Because I will admit though right away, Sage is actually a pretty interesting character at the end. Especially she's way up there compared to Infinite, in my opinion. Although Infinite is okay as the antagonist, but with Sage, she does have some very interesting points and all that stuff. But either way, I want to imagine about the fact that if we get to the Final Horizons DLC, well, what happens next? I mean, I suppose we'll find out during the future times, I guess. So either way, yeah, I'm glad that this entire final boss is over and done with, because my fingers is actually hurting right now. Even when I hold down the bumpers, at least assuming of course depending on what version of the game you're playing, on the PS4 and the Switch version I have to use the bumper buttons, and on the Xbox One version if I recall, I think it's also the bumpers as far as I'm concerned, although I may be wrong. But either way though, I'm just very glad that the journey itself, we made it to the end. Assuming of course there might be still some more content along the way, but still. But either way, guess there's not much else I can say. But even then, I actually really had a fun time with Sonic Frontiers so far. Despite there are some very annoying moments, like for instance with this particular the laser puzzle segment, that it does tend to make me struggle at points, but surprisingly enough, I don't seem to be able to have that much struggles. And as far as the claw machine thing, as far as I'm concerned, I actually did that pretty no problem. And even especially noticeable with, of course, the most infamous puzzle in the game, which appears to be not only for some Tetris blocks in Aronos' Island most notably, but this godforsaken pinball minigame. That minigame just dragged. It literally just dragged. But apart from that, I actually had a great time. Although sure about the fact that, as I said before, we still got a whole ways to go for that particular Sonic Frontiers game. God, I think between both Super Mario Odyssey and Sonic Frontiers up to this point, those two Let's Plays are considerably much more longer than I was expecting. Like, imagine with Super Mario Odyssey to add in some more Power Moons and such. But still, it has a lot of content though, which I suppose that's a good thing, because obviously, without that, well, it'll be pretty much a lackluster experience. But regardless of such though, at the very least in the music in the background, sounds quite peaceful. But even then, I guess there's not much else to think about. I think something tells me it's about the fact that I believe, once we get to the credit sequence, which we still at right now, I believe we might come across into not one, but two post-credit scenes. Because usually, unlike in, not only, let's just say Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, and Sonic Forces, we always attempt to get ourselves just only one post-credit sequence, but it seems that it looks like Sonic Frontiers is about to get not one, but two post-credit sequences this time around. So, I mean, was this like a similar situation as in the majority of the Marvel movies? So, that could be something, alright? Although I will admit though, I apologize if my commentary gets a little bit slightly awkward, but that's just because once again my laptop decides to lag again, which I definitely need to fix that at some point once we get to on Monday, or even tomorrow's case, when Silver's about to come back onto Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. Well, I'll explain more about it as soon as we're able to see the first post-credit scene.
So, that was fun. But I guess it's time we got moving. I know you all have big plans.
You're gonna hardly recognize me when we see each other again.
I wonder if Cream and Sticks are free. Make a road trip out of it.
It'll be good to get back to my island. At least for a while.
We're wasting daylight. Let's go!
cyberspace again, if I'm assuming so anyway, so...
Father?
That's my girl.
And there's another post-credit scene, by the way, where basically Dr. Eggman just somehow been busy doing the actual tech work, or anything else to be more specific. But either way, let's go ahead and save our game. And as a result, we got ourselves a glorious star medal on the actual bottom left corner of this particular save icon menu. So, yeah, that's actually pretty swell. So yeah, in addition to able to unlocking ourselves the cyberspace challenge, okay, so that means we'll go back in there again for yet another reward we can get, and also we can able to actually do Battle Rush, which means that we can able to battle against some more enemies again, and I think that could be also applies for Guardians and even Titans as well. So with that being said, there's a lot of stuff to do. So with that being said, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers. It's that we're about to take on... Let's just do Cyberspace Challenge first, because I feel like that I love platforming style. So as a result, I'll tackle for those first, and that's about it basically, I guess. So I'll see you guys until on Monday. Later, fellas.